Halo is known for having one of the best multiplayers in gaming, and today I wanted to see which was the best and if it still holds up. So I popped in the Master Chief Collection and decided to take all these games for a ride. So starting off with Combat Evolved, the first entry in the series, uh, it's fun. I have to give it credit for starting off the series, obviously, because there was obviously something there, and I still see it. I honestly think it's more fun than than popping in Modern Warfare 3 or something else like that. But I do have to say there is still some flaws that do have to be addressed in terms of if you want to go back and play this or not. Though it is fun and it's fun with friends and it's fun even with randoms. I do have to say that it is like complete and utter chaos, especially on the map that I was playing. Every 5 seconds, I was running into 200 people. There was shooting grenades, which was actually fun. The chaos was fun. But there's also some issues with the fact that when you spawn in, there is no resistance, and also there's no, like, stopping you from spawning in right next to an enemy. So there was several times where I would spawn right in next to an enemy and basically be unable to do anything until I was able to run away, or until I got lucky enough not to spawn next to an enemy and spawn next to a friend. Now, what about the gunplay? The gunplay is pretty good. I mean, it's a little clunky, but that's normal considering the time it came, and it was still really advanced for that time. Obviously, the graphics are not going to be the best. The game is, even though it's the remastered version in Master Chief Collection, it still looks kind of weird compared to modern games, but it still holds that old charm. Now, what about strategy in these multiplayer experiences for Combat Evolved? Well, when playing Combat Evolved's multiplayer, you can see that the Obi-Wan Kenobi strategy is king here. If you are on top or hiding, in order to be alive, you have to be on top or hiding, like above on a higher plane, or hiding away. So I realized that, like, if I was spawned below and the other team was on high with a sniper or a rocket launcher, or you can call it a spanker, or any other type of weapon that could be used from above, which is basically anything, they'll just pelt you with grenades and things like that. And the only time you can break through is if you get lucky enough that they're low enough that you can shoot them from the bottom, or if you're lucky enough that you spawn up there and are able to outsmart them and kill them. But this was very rare, so the Obi-Wan Kenobi strategy is top tier strategy, and the levels are pretty good, and they were a big change back in the day, and they still hold up pretty well today. I played like 5 games in total recently. I mean, I've been playing Master Chief Collection for quite some time, but in total, I ended up playing quite a bit of Combat Evolved. So, I'm gonna give Combat Evolved multiplayer an 8 out of 10. It's pretty good, and it started off the series, so you gotta give it some credit for that. If it didn't start off the series, I'd give it a 7 out of 10, and if there was a little more strategy to it, and maybe some a little bit better, less clunky gameplay, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10 at least. But, that's gonna be a little controversial, but that's my take. Alright, going into Halo 2's multiplayer differs itself in a lot of ways from Combat Evolved. Not only does it look better, but it also fixes some of the flaws I had with Combat Evolved's multiplayer, such as the spawning right next to an enemy. I did not spawn next to any enemies, and even if you do, you have like a quick resistance, so that if you do on accident, or if you're close to an enemy, that you can't just get killed right off spawn. Well, that doesn't mean that an enemy won't eventually walk up to you if you just stand still at spawn. It does kind of mean that you're gonna get some gameplay. And for this footage, for some reason, Master Chief Collection decided to put me in nothing besides Sniper Slayer. So Team Snipers was the only game mode I played, and I did pretty bad in the first match. But Snipers is a difficult thing for me, especially. But I did end up being able to enjoy the Halo 2 multiplayer. It's a pretty big graphical improvement from the last one. It doesn't have that jankiness anymore. It has that more clean, swift movement. There's dual wielding in this multiplayer as well, which is a big improvement. But obviously you won't see that in this footage because it's snipers. So a lot of it's very smooth, and if you're in regular not snipers, the gameplay is usually pretty even, and unlike Combat Evolved, usually there is a chance that you could come back after getting hit, because there's this huge thing in Halo where usually if somebody is pretty accurate and they get their first hit off, that usually means they're going to win a duel straight off. So this game really has prevented some of that, and allowed you to have a more fighting chance against weapon, and dual wielding and having more ammo availability is also really good, as well as the modes. The modes, I remember there was a few new modes in the game. The graphical updates and just the smoothness of the game were updated quite a bit from Combat Evolved. So, as well as, like I said, the spawn, and there's a lot more strategic positions in the maps, especially in Team Snipers, where instead of it being more about who can get to the high ground first and who can throw the most grenades, it's more about who can get in the more strategic position, and even if somebody throws 200 grenades at you, you could still come out on top just because you have a more strategic position and are better at the game. Now, I do have to say there is a few flaws with this, just in the fact that this might be with Master Chief Collection, but it was a very annoying that I kept getting Team Snipers like 5 times in a row. But I think that's more of a Master Chief Collection issue than anything, and what can you expect from 343? So I'm gonna give this multiplayer probably a 9.5 out of 10. It's really is just fun in general. The gameplay is really good. There's a lot of variety in maps, lots of references to Combat Evolved, and the combat's just very smooth. It's very good, so 9.5 to 10 out of 10 on this one. Alright, now comes Halo 3's multiplayer. Personally, I remember this being my favorite of the series. Maybe it's because what I played the most, and still probably play the most in Master Chief Collection. But, so what does this fix? What does it improve? Well, honestly, I think that Halo 3 has some pretty good maps. Even though I remember it did drop with less maps on release, and there was a lot more extra packs that cost more money, and it felt like it was kind of sapping Halo to try and get you to buy these packs for like $10 or whatever, which obviously people were willing to pay because they love playing Halo, but it was kind of annoying at release, so that might affect the rating a little bit. It continues the same trend as Halo 2, dual wielding, the combat's fun and fluid. For some reason it feels a little more fluid, but I remember there was a lot of grenade spamming on Icebox, which is what I was playing. Vehicles are better in this one as well. There's obviously a graphical improvement. I'd say this is about equal to the last one. I don't know about the map packs. I do have to say that these maps feel a little bit about the same strategically, being able to position yourself, and I was actually able to get a lot more game modes for this one. I don't know exactly why that is, that Master Chief Collection just didn't allow me to get any game modes besides Big Snipe, or Team Snipers. I almost said Big Team Snipers. Team Snipers for Halo 2, but for Halo 3 I got a lot more, like, different game modes. But I had fun, I enjoyed the multiplayer. It was a lot more competitive. I felt like people were actually, the movement felt quicker and more fast-paced, and people were a lot more competitive in this, it felt. So I think I'm going to probably give this the same as Halo 2, probably a 9.5 as well. It's just really good. The only thing that, I don't think I'm going to bring it to 10. I personally think that the lack of maps kind of, and then the having to buy more maps later on kind of sucked, but probably about the same as Halo 2. I think it's maybe a little better at the time just because of it released, because of graphical improvement, but I'm not really going to base these off of that much, just because of the fact that these are older games. So obviously if this was based on modern technology, Halo Infinite would absolutely demolish them. But we're going to be moving on to Halo 4. Alright, Halo 4 was a pretty big change in the beginning of the shift into basically Call of Duty for Halo. And this game, in the multiplayer, there's loadouts, which I thought was a bit weird at first, but I didn't really mind it in the end. The gunplay feels a bit odd. I don't know exactly how to explain it. Uh, it just feels different. The sound effects are different. The maps are kind of bad. The maps are kind of trash. A lot of them are focused on the same premise, which is a big circle that's the highest point that goes around the whole map that you can basically walk around, with a lower down part where everybody's fighting, and then there's a middle part that crosses between the circles. That's what I felt like a lot of the maps were, very similar. And the art style is very different from past Halo multiplayer maps, so I'm going to have to put down the score for that. The gunplay is pretty similar, but also just feels different for some reason. The sound effects and stuff are different. I do have to say this is the one I did the best in. I have no idea why. It feels easier than the other ones. It feels like I don't know if it was faster or slower or something like that. People felt a lot more inattentive in this map, and I think that has to do with what I was saying, the sound effects. It's so, like, disjointed and slightly different enough from, like, Halo 1, 2, and 3 that it makes it, like, slightly uneasy to play this game in the multiplayer. So it's a bit weird, and, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was fun. All Halo multiplayers are fun, even 5, which I'm about to talk about here. But, personally, I'm probably going to give this an 8 out of 10. It just feels different. The map designs is way too repetitive. The art style change is weird, and some of the sound effects I didn't like. And it just feels like people are less skilled in Halo 4 maps, especially on MCC. Alright, so here's an honorable mention for Halo 5. I didn't even bother pulling out the Xbox to try and record this one because even 343 knows that nobody wants Halo 5 on MCC, even though they should probably put it on there so I could play it on PC and record it for this video. So yeah, there's my daily anger at 343 today. But yeah, Halo 5 sucks in terms of Halo game. The multiplayer is fun, like in general, if you have never played another Halo game, but it's basically Call of Duty. There's loadouts, the gameplay is like completely different. Like nobody ever in the world has said this is the most Halo combat I've ever felt. So I'm gonna have to give that a negative 200 out of 10 in terms of Halo multiplayer. The maps are actually pretty decent though, so maybe like a 2 out of 10. And now we're moving on to Halo Reach, baby, the second most controversial Halo multiplayer in Halo history after Halo 5. Halo Reach, it felt weird. I couldn't get anything besides SWAT. I just kept getting SWAT over and over again, which in Halo Infinite I'm pretty sure just changed to like a tactical Slayer. So SWAT was it was pretty fun. I mean, it's all headshots. I couldn't even get like a regular Slayer map. I don't know if this has to be MCC because this is happening a lot. I'm selecting all the game modes and just like Halo Reach and all the game modes, but I'm not getting anything besides Tactical Slayer or with Halo 2 snipers. I don't know if that's an MCC thing or if that's an actual thing that happened with Reach. I don't remember, and I could care less to research. So let's actually dive into the multiplayer. Gunplay is basically the same as Halo 3. Maps are kind of a little weird. I didn't like the maps very much. They're very 3-lane oriented, like the one I was playing on was 3 lanes, and if you were stuck in the center lane, you were dead. There's a little bit, at both ends of the map, there's a little more complex inner workings, but I didn't get any combat in there. The gunplay feels, like I said, similar to Halo 3. There was obviously the addition of sprinting, which I don't know if I like in multiplayer or I don't like it, so I might subtract a little bit from that. Obviously sprinting was added back in Halo Infinite, but it just feels less conspicuous, like it feels less like a big deal than it did in Halo Reach, maybe because it was kind of new in Halo Reach. But the multiplayer, it's fine. It's just the same as Halo 3, just with slightly updated graphics, and it's more like sentimental, I guess, because they added new game modes, and because it was like Bungie's last multiplayer that they made for Halo. So, I don't know, 8.5, 9 out of 10, something like that. I don't know, it feels like Halo 3, just like slightly worse. I don't know. So that's it, I guess 8.5 to 9, and now moving on to the big boy. Halo Infinite, the one that some people say is the definitive Halo multiplayer, and some people say is the definitive piece of crap Halo multiplayer. But here, I'm gonna clear that all up right now. So, we're gonna have to talk about that, because I've talked about all the other games on release and how their multiplayer was on release, but so Halo Infinite didn't really have a multiplayer on release. It had one playlist. It wasn't even really a playlist. It was like 4 game modes. It was kind of bad, but the gunplay is the best it's ever been. It's advanced. The multiplayer looks good. The maps are still like semi 3 lane oriented, but recently they've thrown in like Halo 3 maps in there, so I have to give it some credit for that. The maps are pretty good, decent. I don't know if I could give it like a 10 out of 10 because of how it opened with like no playlists, but now it has like the most multiplayer options ever. It has quite a bit of multiplayer options. You can play almost any game mode from all of the Halos in Halo Infinite, and for some reason the winter update right now, it's pretty fun. The game after the one you're gonna be seeing in this, I had like tiny Spartans where it was like a miniature Spartan, and I could not stick people with plasma grenades at all. And in the game, in the match that you're watching, uh, it was like high jump with grapples, and that was pretty fun. And only Mangler, I could not do that. It was so annoying, but it was pretty fun. The movement in like a regular Halo Infinite match is better than any other Halo game. It's cleaner, it's faster. The grapple and like the other abilities, like the dash or whatever you want to call it, or like the move thing or whatever you want to call it, the grapple hook, obviously, the sliding and all that stuff just feels very clean. It feels very modern, and it's not like COD anymore after Halo 5, which was actually surprising. I remember when it released, I expected kind of it to be like more like COD, but the gunplay feels really good. The sounds when you kill people are so satisfying, and that I'll play it like right over that voice line that I just poorly made. It was so good, so crisp. The sound effects are really good. It's just a really fun multiplayer, and it's especially fun because there's actually people playing it more often still, than like if I were to just try and play Combat Evolved. The sprinting is back again, but it's more inconspicuous and feels like less of an intrusion. And you also have infinite sprint, so it doesn't feel like such a big deal when you run out of sprint, like it did in Reach, where you run out of sprint and you're like a dead dog in the middle of the road. But Halo Infinite's multiplayer is pretty good now, but at release it was so bad, so I'm gonna have to move down a few points. I would actually probably say 9.5 or 10 out of 10 for this. But if we're talking about like overall Halo right now, it's a 10 out of 10. But if we're talking about at release, it's 5 out of 10. And if we're talking about if we want to go in an in between, I'm not gonna give it a 7. I would probably give it a 9 out of 10. So yeah, that's all the Halo multiplayers that I care. I'm not even gonna try like Spartan Strike or Spartan Assault. I don't even remember if those had multiplayers, and I didn't want to actually play Halo 5. That's just how abhorrent it is. I would rather go play Modern Warfare 3 and the campaign than play Halo 5. So yeah, that's gonna be it. So personally, I think Halo Infinite has the best multiplayer. Halo 3 is probably second. Then it's probably Halo 2 or Combat Evolved, and then Reach is somewhere thrown in there. Halo 4 was pretty good. I just don't know. It's so similar to the. I mean, like I said, Reach is just so similar to the other ones, besides the sprinting. It's like they added sprinting, and they made the maps worse. That's all they did. So, personally, Halo Infinite's my favorite multiplayer. Let me know what you think in the comments. And people have been getting really angry at my Halo takes recently, and I just want to say that a lot of this is my opinion, and just kind of evaluating the game overall. So, I don't really care if you think my opinion is bad. Alright, bye-bye.